forma u otra que sea fluida en la conversación y dar los turnos de quién va a hablar primero. Se ha hecho de forma bastante, extremadamente. Ya va a empezar.
Good afternoon, folks, and thank you for your patience. You know, this is an ongoing, evolving situation. We're going to open it up with the Honorable Daniela Levine Cava, the Mayor of Miami-Dade County.
Thank you. So it's been over 12 hours. We're at about 15 hours since this tragic, devastating emergency. And our people are working around the clock. Our fire rescue team leaving no stone unturned. And we're working with the families on reunification as well as those that were dislocated in the neighboring buildings. And I want to give you a top number, very encouraging. 102 people have been accounted for. That's double what we were able to report last time. So 102 people from the towers, their locations are known and they are safe. We still have at least 99 who are unaccounted for. And right now at our Family Reunification Center up at the Surfside Community Center, the families are being briefed so that they know which are the ones that are accounted for. So they've been seeking that information, and for those family members of 102, we've been able to provide some good news. For anybody who has information or seeking information, we urge you to use our hotline 305-614-1819, 305-614-1819. We also have assembled a tremendous support system. We have food, we have hotel rooms, we have social services, medicine assistants, chaplains, and the Coral Gables Community Foundation and the Key Biscayne Foundation have joined forces to create a special emergency fund, which is available at supportsurfside.org. So we are here. And then to say, most importantly, I believe, is that I have just signed an emergency order. The governor has on his desk his emergency order, and with that, we will get the support from the federal agency FEMA. The president has pledged that support, and so shortly these orders will go forward, and we will be able to bring, in addition, FEMA federal assistance to this site and to the families who are suffering. So we are all praying, we are all crying, we are all here with the suffering families, and we urge everyone to join us in prayers and in hopes that we can still continue. We are continuing for our search and rescue effort. Aquí estamos, 15 horas más o menos desde el principio de esta emergencia, y finalmente podemos decir que 102 personas hemos identificado que son seguros, que son están seguras, gracias. Y las familias están recibiendo la notificación ahora de los que están con estos 102 personas, pero todavía tenemos 99 personas al mínimo que no podemos decir dónde están y si son seguras. Pero estamos haciendo todo como antes, como del día y noche entero, buscando personas allí en ese desastre, y todos nosotros estamos con oraciones y benedicciones pensando en las familias, y no vamos a dejar ninguna piedra afuera para que podamos encontrar. Todavía tenemos este número de donde gente puede pedir información o dar información de las personas que están esperando. 305-614-1819, 305-614-1819. Y también tenemos ahora recursos de la Fundación de Coral Gables Community Foundation, Key Biscayne Foundation y Miami Foundation. Y juntos ellos tienen un fondo que se llama supportsurfside.org. y finalmente yo acabé de firmar un orden de emergencia de este desastre y el gobernador tiene también en su escritorio un orden para firmar y dijo que sí, que va a firmar, y el presidente dijo que está listo a mandar recursos federales por FEMA. Gracias a todos.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following the mayor, we're going to have the Board of County Commissioners Chairman, Honorable Jose Diaz.
Thank you. This has been a very sad day for us in our community, but it's also a day that we can see this community come together and provide the very best in support of a very bad and ugly situation. I want to thank the firefighters that since 1:48 in the morning have not stopped in trying to rescue as many people as possible. I want to thank the mayor for all her work and what has taken place. This is very sad when you're dealing with people that don't know the outcome of their family. They're very worried. They just are desperate in the sense that they want to know what's actually taking place. But we continue to try to rescue. We continue to try to find more people. And the number doubled, as the mayor said, was great news. We want to keep going on that. And I know that the chief fire has more figures as to the director of police, as to stats. All I can say is I am incredibly proud of this community and all its residents and the outpour of support and what they're doing. Thank you to all, and the prayers. That is extremely important. That's what's taking place. So to us, please continue. Our men and women are doing the very best that they can. They're the very best in the world in what they do. And hopefully we'll continue to get good results out of such a tragic situation. Tengo que darle las gracias a la alcaldesa por su liderazgo y también a los hombres del Departamento de Bomberos y de Policía. Desde las 1:48 de la mañana están trabajando sin parar, buscando personas y tratando de salvarle la vida a muchos de ellos en el rescate. El número creció el doble, como dijo la alcaldesa, de personas que ya son contables, pero todavía quedan 99 que no han sido contables. Y quiero darle las gracias a esta comunidad por el trabajo tan eficaz que está haciendo, tanto en las ayudas y todo lo que están mandando para ayudar a todo lo que puede. Y las oraciones también a estas circunstancias. También al Departamento de Bomberos, como dije, que no han parado desde las 1:48 de la mañana y siguen trabajando eficazmente para seguir rescatando personas. Pero yo voy a dejar que el Departamento de Bomberos, el jefe, diga su información, también como nuestro gran director de la policía. Pero más que nada quise darle las gracias de nuevo a todos los que están trabajando en estas circunstancias y también a los ciudadanos de esta comunidad y de todas partes que han llamado con la ayuda, incluyendo nuestro gobernador y muchos más. Muchas gracias.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to follow with the Vice Chair, Honorable Oliver Gilbert.
Between the mayor and the chairman, they've said most everything, but listen, I just have to implore everybody, just pray. Look, having seen that building from the other side, we have to all pray. The county, the mayor, the firefighters, the first responders, we're going to all continue to work. But we need everybody to continue to pray because, and not just for the people who were in those buildings, but for their families who are desperately hoping that they're safe. For the firefighters and first responders who are going in there trying to save their lives. For this community, we have to pray. And we're going to pray and we're going to work. We're going to pray and we're going to work. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. We're going to follow by Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
Thank you so much, Mayor Levine Cava, to the members of the County Commission. I woke up this morning in Washington, D.C. to the horror of seeing a building that had collapsed in Surfside, which is entirely included in my congressional district. I spent the morning before I got on the plane to come down here speaking with Mayor Burkett and the officials in the city of Surfside who have done a remarkable job mobilizing, along with Mayor Levine Cava and her team. It is essential that we have a whole of government effort here. And so making sure, my responsibility as the member of Congress that represents this community is to make sure that we can have there be no daylight between the federal, state, and local governments, and ensuring that we have the assistance of the federal government to make sure that our community has the resources they need to make sure that not only the unexpected, unanticipated expenses that come with this kind of disaster are accounted for, but also there'll be need for federal housing assistance that only comes with a disaster declaration that we've been working with the White House since this morning to make sure is declared. Once the governor makes that declaration, now that the mayor has sent hers up, I spoke with the Chief of Staff of the White House, Ron Klain, before I got on the plane, and they were already preparing to make sure everything is in place for when they receive the emergency disaster declaration from the governor. So everyone is ready. It's all hands on deck. I will tell you that I have been getting outreach from constituents who had family members or people they knew in the building, and they are among the unaccounted for. We do all need to pray. I just had a chance to view the site up close, and I mean, the humanity that you see, the daily lives, the evidence of just people living their daily lives, and that everything evaporated in an instant. It's enormously devastating, and so we really need to make sure, and we will. And I'm thankful that President Biden made it very clear that they are prepared to mobilize everything that this community needs, and I'll be working with my fellow elected officials to ensure that. So please know that this entire day, since the news of this tragedy began, we have all been working very closely, and we'll keep this community close and everyone in our prayers. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. We're going to follow up with the Assistant Chief of Operations, Ray Jadala, followed by Public Information Officer Erica Benitez in Spanish.
Hi, good afternoon. So since the last press conference at 6 a.m. this morning, we shifted our operations from the inside of the building to underneath the rubble. We conducted an assessment, sonar and search cams on the top of the rubble. Sonar is those listening devices. We also utilized canine dogs for the top of the rubble early in the search phase. What we've determined was that all the resources needed to shift underneath the rubble. There's a parking garage that's beneath the building that's given us better access to gain basically tunnelways to these different floors. All the resources have continued to basically shift approximately 60 to 70 firefighters at a time, coupled with our urban search and rescue team underneath the parking garage. Again, that's what we found was on top of the rubble area. We're unable to locate any voids, any areas that we could actually operate to start conducting these searches. This process is slow and methodical. You see that every time there's a shift in the rubble, we have additional rubble that shifts on us. If we make a cut and there's a shift with additional boulders, what we end up finding is what we just encountered, a small fire. We did have a small fire as a result of some shifting of the building. We were able to extinguish it within 20 minutes, after which time we went back in and we conducted search operations. The operations will continue throughout the night. We have our urban search and rescue team, again, coupled with additional resources that we have that are going to replace our firefighters tomorrow morning to bring in fresh crews. But again, every possible resource that we have, including local assets from municipalities, are being brought in, and every opportunity for any viable victims that we can find, we will locate. Thank you.
PIO Erica Benitez is going to speak in Spanish for fire.
Muy buenas tardes. Bueno, ahora 15 horas después de que comenzamos esta operación, estamos todavía continuando con la misión de búsqueda y rescate. Lo que sabemos es que al comenzar esta misión, al principio empezamos haciendo una búsqueda con los perros, al principio en la parte de arriba de los escombros. Ahora lo que estamos haciendo es cambiando la estrategia. Estamos buscando a personas vivas, es lo que esperamos encontrar debajo de los escombros. Por eso hemos seguido esta operación y continuarán estos equipos de búsqueda y rescate trabajando arduamente para asegurar de que encontremos a todas las personas que podamos encontrar vivas. Nosotros tenemos unos equipos especializados, al igual que muy bien capacitados para hacer esta clase de búsqueda y rescate. Estos equipos han trabajado en todas partes del mundo y tienen muchísima experiencia en esta clase de rescates.
Thank you, Erica. Director of the Miami-Dade Police Department, Alfredo Ramirez.
Good afternoon. I'd like to speak directly to the victim's family and everyone in our community that's concerned right now. I want to assure you that we are doing everything we can to bring information to the families. We are all in this together. We are all hurting. We know that the families are very upset. They're in a lot of pain, but we ask for painful patience. And I know that's a hard ask, but we have to. This is a tremendous task that we're all involved in right now. It's very dangerous, and while we're putting the work on the ground, those families are suffering. Our officers and our counselors and social workers are with them right now, trying to console them, waiting for, dire news or good news. What we all have to do, like everyone has said here, is, stick together and pray together. These are very difficult times, and things are going to get more difficult as we move forward. As we move forward, it's going to get harder, and those families are going to suffer. So I ask, please, rumor control, please do not share any misinformation. We will give you the information that we can give you, because those families are depending on that, and I want them to know that we are here for them. Estoy hablando directo a la familia, decirle que estamos sintiendo tu dolor. Nosotros sabemos que está ahora sintiendo bravo, que hay muchas cuestiones. Quiero que ellos saben que estamos haciendo todo lo que podemos hacer para traerles información. Esta operación es muy duro, muy delicado, y yo sé que como cuando estamos haciendo este proceso, ellos están sufriendo. So, quisiera decirle a ellos que no le vamos a dejar solo. Tenemos nuestros detectives hablando con ellos, dando información, y por favor hay que controlar los rumores. Cuando tenemos información te la vamos a dar, porque es muy importante que no damos información que no es correcta, porque las familias van a sufrir. Gracias.
We're going to go into the questions and answers. Let's try to keep it in an orderly fashion so that way we can do it. So if you raise a hand, we can go ahead and point. Oh, wait. Yeah, they were going to give it to him to tweet. And then to tweet it out. Give me a second. Go ahead. And please direct the question to who?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for everybody, but I'm sorry.
Yes. It's okay. We won't go without you.
Oh my gosh.
I'm sorry, Mayor.
It's okay, we're all excited.
So Mayor Lemon-Cobb, Elizabeth Tibias on Channel 7. Do you have any idea why this happened? That's the big question right now. Why?
Yes.
Any indication? I know it's early on, but do you or Miami-Dade Fire Rescue any idea why this building collapsed?
So at this point, we have engineers on site. Structural issues, obviously, the building did collapse, so we want to understand what happened, but also what risk there might be for the remaining buildings. So it's a structural engineering question, and through our fire rescue department, they have engineers as well. The city of Surfside is also working with structural engineers.
Is Miami-Dade Fire Rescue the lead on trying to figure out why?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I could answer that. Miami, the fire department is doing the search and rescue. Once they release the scene, the Miami-Dade Police Department will then conduct that investigation as to what is the causes. But right now we're focused on the search and rescue. When that moment comes, that dire moment comes where they transition command, then we will be in charge of the investigation. That's why we're here. We're holding the traffic scenes right now, providing support. We have all our assets here. And once that transition comes, we'll be part of that investigation. Our homicide detectives will be doing a death investigation with other partners, and it'll be very similar to the FIU Bridge tragedy.
So even though it will be a structural engineering issue, it will be Miami-Dade police taking the
There'll
lead
be
on
other
this?
assets that'll be coming once they stop the search and rescue component. Right?
Probably
Yeah.
and yeah.
You go ahead, man. It's okay.
Well, as well, there'll probably be federal
Yes.
resources involved in the investigation as well.
Next question.
Brief question. This is probably for fire rescue. If you don't mind, just for people watching, so we can be clear, the 102 people who have been accounted for at this time, not necessarily from the collapse, just rather the structure in its entirety, people who were evacuated from the building. That's a question. And then regarding the search efforts under the rubble, can you speak at all to whether anyone has been located in that? We've heard reports of people hearing sounds, trying to locate individuals. Can you speak to what you may have found at this point?
All right, so to echo the mayor's numbers, so in combination to our numbers this morning, so we had 35 victims that were pulled from the structure by fire rescue. This is an additional 2 victims that were pulled from the rubble. Now we had a total of 11 patients that were treated. Of those 11, now we're up to 4 patients that have been transported. Now we have been getting what we call, again, sonar, sound devices that we're getting from inside the rubble in various areas. And again, it is a very slow and methodical process because every time we start breaching parts of the structure, we do get debris that falls on us. In regards to the structural engineer, we do have structural engineers that are embedded with Miami-Dade Fire Rescue to prevent the building from collapsing on our firefighters as we continue with this search and rescue phase. Again, since 1:48 a.m., Miami-Dade Fire Rescue has not stopped. Again, the optics may seem that there's nothing going on top, but all operations, I cannot emphasize enough, all operations are occurring underneath the rubble. They're occurring underneath the parking garage where we have teams of firefighters constantly as they continue to making cuts, breaches, and placing sonar devices, search cams to locate victims. As we make one hole, we access a floor, we continue to the various areas. But to answer the question, we did receive sounds, not necessarily people talking, but sounds, what sounds like people banging, well, not people, but sounds of a possibility of a banging. Short of that, we haven't heard any voices coming from the pile.
AP. We got him.
Yeah, to clarify, there was a report around 4:15 or so saying that 2 people had been pulled, or 2 or some number had been pulled from the wreckage this afternoon. That was an incorrect report.
That's correct.
That was a
correct. The only numbers that we have for patients that were removed from the actual structure or rubble is the 35 and 2. So a total of 37 have been pulled from the structure itself.
New York Times, is there any concern associated with the stability of the building at this point?
Situations of this nature where there's an emergency, there's been a catastrophic occurrence with a structure, there's always going to be a concern. But again, we do have structural engineers that are embedded with Miami-Dade firefighters. They assess the structure every hour. In addition to every hour, they conduct the assessments every time there's a weather shift. What we do is we just make sure that, again, we place seismic devices on the building to determine that any stress cracks, enlarging. From there, we also make sure that we don't have any shifting of the floors. Every time we make a breach underneath the ground, we do have some debris that rains down on the firefighters. And again, what we encountered was some shifting of the debris, and eventually we did have a small fire which was extinguished within 20 minutes.
Over here, you're next.
Yes, ma'am. So prior to 6 a.m., every structure, every apartment unit that's still standing was cleared by Miami-Dade firefighters. They were placed with markings, and a primary clear was given. Again, we're referencing the actual building that's still standing with the apartments that were still intact.
Sir? Carrie Sanders from NBC News. I'm curious, for the families that are waiting for news, how do you give them hope but not false hope?
We understand, what they're going through, and every firefighter, is carrying that burden on their shoulders. They're trying to find these individuals, and as they continue with, making these breaches, making these tunnels, we're trying to locate these victims. But again, every possible resource that not just Miami-Dade County, but the municipalities around us, local, state, and federal, are being expanded to assist with this situation.
Is there any indication that beach was sinking? We know there is this FIU researcher who says he's familiar with that building and that the beach was sinking.
I have no information. I have no information on that.
Okay.
Sir? Do you have an update on fatalities? Do you know what fatalities are?
I'll defer that to Miami-Dade PD.
As of right now, unfortunately, we have one fatality. That's what we account for right now.
How about unaccounted?
One.
A man or woman?
Unknown. I don't have that
How
information.
many unaccounted for?
It's 99 unaccounted for right now.
One more question.
At least.
Sir.
That's a very from
So if you had to take an educated guess right now about collectively how many first responders or participating in search and rescue effort, what is the mission and deviations to the whole discussion?
Yes, hi, Alan Kaminsky, Fire Chief, Miami-Dade Fire Rescue. Right now we have several teams, so estimate of our Florida task force, we have up to 40 members that are conducting the search and rescue, as Chief Jadala mentioned, in the parking area, as well as, we have multiple units on scene. So, at one point we had over 100 firefighters, and we still currently have 60 plus that are actively working, and we rotate through the scene. No, as of now we had no injuries of any firefighters, any personnel.
How many rescue dogs?
We currently have 4 that we've been rotating through.
Thank you, folks. The leaders are going to get back to work.
Thanks, Albert. Asbestos with firefighters lasting. I know this is a building. There's a lot of dust. Are any precautions? Anything you can say about the risk?
Definitely, when we make entry, we wear the necessary proper respiratory protection. So we have the proper protection on when we're in that environment. Okay.
Ready? Great job. They want Spanish. They want Spanish on Eric is going to stay.
Sandra.
Sorry.
Ay, perdón.
Yo no te iba a matar, te iba a matar toda esta gente.